It started with a sunrise, golden, serene, yet for one man, it would mark the beginning of a mystery no one could explain. A lone hiker vanishes on a remote mountain trail. His GPS keeps moving, but he doesn't. Footprints appear, then vanish. A jacket is torn, a device blinks, but the man is gone. What happened in the wilderness? And why does it feel like the forest itself is watching? This is the chilling story of a disappearance that defies explanation. It started with a sunrise, the kind of soft, golden light that makes the whole world feel alive again. But for 34-year-old outdoor enthusiast Evan Mercer, that sunrise would mark the beginning of something no one, not his friends, not the search teams, not even seasoned investigators, could ever explain. Evan was the kind of person who made solitude sound romantic. He wasn't reckless, but he loved the quiet of the mountains, the rhythm of his boots against dirt. A software engineer from Portland, Oregon, he spent his weekends escaping city life for the deep wilderness. His Instagram page was full of foggy peaks, lonely trails, and cryptic captions like, "Sometimes, you have to get lost to find peace." On June 12, Evan told his sister, Lily, that he planned to hike the Cascade Ridge Trail, a remote 40-mile route through the forests of Washington state. He'd done parts of it before, but never the full stretch. This time, he wanted to challenge himself. He said he'd be gone for 3 days and would check in once he got back to cell range. He never did. When he didn't return by June 15, Lily called the ranger station. At first, no one panicked, delays happen. But when rangers checked his permit and found his car still parked at the trailhead, alarm bells went off. Search and rescue mobilized that evening. Helicopters, scent dogs, volunteers, the full response. For the first 24 hours, everyone assumed they'd find him. Maybe he'd slipped or gotten injured. But the deeper they searched, the stranger things became. Evan had brought along a GPS tracker, a small black Garmin he always wore when hiking alone. It was linked to his sister's phone through an app that showed his live location whenever he had satellite access. She hadn't checked it right away, assuming he was just out of range. But once rangers told her he was missing, she opened the app. What she saw didn't make sense. Evan's GPS had last pinged near a ridge overlook called Hollow Point, about 18 miles from where he'd started. That wasn't unusual, until the next morning, when the device pinged again. This time, it was 3 miles northeast of the ridge. Then, 6 hours later, another ping. And another. For several days after Evan vanished, his GPS tracker continued to move, slowly, sometimes stopping for hours, sometimes zigzagging through terrain no one should have been able to cross on foot. Rangers were baffled. The signal was strong and consistent. It wasn't drifting or glitching, it was moving. But every time they reached the coordinates, Evan wasn't there. No footprints, no campfire remains, no signs of struggle. Just wilderness. On the third day, a volunteer found a torn piece of fabric snagged on a branch about 5 miles from one of the GPS ping locations. It matched the color of Evan's hiking jacket. Nearby, they found a single boot print, deep in the mud, as if someone had been running. But that was it. No backpack. No gear. No body. And still, the GPS pings kept coming, for 2 more days. At first, investigators thought maybe an animal had taken the tracker. Bears, for example, have been known to drag items long distances. But the movement didn't fit. The tracker wasn't moving randomly, it was following trails, skirting rivers, staying within navigable paths. It was deliberate. Then came the night of June 18. At 9:43 p.m., the GPS sent its final transmission, from a clearing near a dried-up creek bed about 22 miles from the trailhead. Search teams reached the spot by dawn. There, half buried under pine needles and damp soil, they found the tracker. It was scratched, as if dropped multiple times, but still blinking green. No blood. No clothes. No evidence anyone, or anything, had been there recently. The official report listed Evan Mercer as missing, presumed deceased. But no one could say how, or why, or where. 2 months later, a hiker named Derek Hall uploaded a GoPro video from the same trail system. In one clip, about 3 minutes long, Derek pans across a ridge at sunset. In the far background, you can just make out the outline of a man wearing a dark jacket and a large backpack. Derek didn't notice it at the time. But when investigators slowed the footage, they realized something chilling. The timestamp matched the second day of Evan's disappearance, right around when his GPS placed him near Hollow Point. Except Derek's video was filmed 12 miles away. The timeline didn't make sense. If that was Evan, and there's no proof it was, then how could he have moved that far that fast, over terrain that should have taken nearly 2 days to cross? Experts examined the footage, compared frame rates, GPS metadata, even lighting conditions. Nothing pointed to manipulation. Weeks turned into months. The trail reopened. The search was scaled back. Evan's family held a small memorial at the base of Cascade Ridge. But Lily refused to accept that her brother was gone. She spent weekends hiking the same trails, sometimes camping overnight, hoping for a clue. Then, nearly 6 months later, she got a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was muffled, distorted. Just 2 words came through clearly. "Stop searching." The line went dead. Authorities traced the call to a payphone in a small town 40 miles away. The security footage showed a man in a hoodie, head down, feeding coins into the machine. He never looked up. The video was grainy, but one detail stood out: on his wrist was a black band, the same model used on Evan's missing GPS tracker. Police followed the lead, canvassed the area, interviewed locals. But no one had seen the man. And there were no other sightings, no financial activity, nothing to suggest Evan, or anyone like him, had been there. Over time, theories piled up online. Some said he fell victim to a drifter or hermit living deep in the park. Others believed he staged his own disappearance to escape modern life. And then there were stranger claims, stories about unmarked trails, hidden in old logging maps, leading to places not found on any current chart. But one quiet theory persisted among the original search team. They believed Evan had discovered something he wasn't meant to find. That he'd stumbled into an area of the park where the usual rules of time and direction didn't quite apply. Because according to the GPS data, at least twice during those 4 days, the tracker had backtracked over its own path, retracing steps before those steps had even been recorded. The final coordinates, where the tracker was found, lined up almost perfectly with the start of the trail. As if, in some impossible loop, the device had tried to return home. Today, hikers still pass through Cascade Ridge. Most never hear Evan's story. But those who camp overnight say the woods feel different there. The silence is heavier. The air feels charged, like it's listening. And every so often, someone reports hearing a faint electronic beep echoing through the trees. Like a GPS signal. Searching for a connection. Still moving, even when there's no one left to carry it. Sometimes, the wilderness doesn't just swallow people. It keeps them, and keeps them moving.